Since time immemorial, humanity has been guided under the illusion that its destiny is uncertain, that life is a game of chance in which some are born favored by luck while others are condemned to struggle and scarcity. But this is a falsehood, a distortion carefully sown to keep the majority in ignorance of their true power. There exists a great secret, a knowledge that has been hidden, veiled behind dogma, rationalism, and skepticism. It is the truth that the reality in which you find yourself is nothing more than a reflection of your own consciousness. Since the dawn of history, this principle has been understood and applied by a few, those who have known how to look beyond appearances and comprehend that the mind is the sole creator of experience. Ancient civilizations hinted at it in their mystical teachings. Sages passed it down by word of mouth to chosen disciples. But it was never a knowledge freely given to the masses, not because it was inaccessible, but because its power is so vast that those in positions of control knew it had to be suppressed to maintain their dominion. Why has this truth been hidden? The answer is simple. A man who understands that his world is the projection of his own mind is a man who cannot be enslaved. He does not need to beg for opportunities, does not submit to the will of others, does not let himself be dragged by fear or uncertainty. When an individual comprehends that his internal state is the sole cause of what he sees manifested externally, he becomes the sole architect of his destiny. Religions, educational systems, power structures have shaped a vision of the world in which the individual is weak, dependent, subject to uncontrollable external forces. We have been taught to look outside ourselves for answers, to place our faith in external factors, whether in leaders, institutions, or circumstances. But the truth has always been within. The secret of manifestation does not reside in complicated rituals or unattainable esoteric formulas. It is not in the stars nor in the signs of destiny, but in something much simpler and more profound. The assumption that you already are and have what you desire to be and possess. Everything you experience is a reflection of what you have accepted as true in your mind. There is nothing outside of you that has more power than your imagination, because it is through it that realities are created and destroyed. Many have been deceived into believing that they must struggle against circumstances, that they must change the world with effort and resistance. But that is a lost battle because the external world is nothing more than a mirror of the internal state. You cannot change the reflection in the mirror without first changing the image that projects it. Manifestation is not a hidden art reserved for a few, but a universal law that has always been operating, consciously or unconsciously, in every human being. Everything you have lived until this moment, everything that has come into your life, has been attracted by the state you are in internally. The question is not whether you can manifest, but whether you are willing to accept that you have always been doing it. Those who have discovered this principle and applied it consciously have transformed their lives in ways that others would consider miraculous, not because they have done something extraordinary, but because they have understood that the only true action occurs in the mind. And when the mind assumes a state with certainty, the external reality has no choice but to conform to that vision. But this knowledge demands responsibility. You can no longer blame fate, society, luck, or any other circumstance. You cannot cling to the idea that the world is against you because the world is nothing more than your own projection. This is the reason why this truth has been suppressed, because it liberates the individual from dependency and makes him the absolute creator of his experience. The great secret is not something new. It has been present in every spiritual tradition, disguised in parables and allegories, waiting for those with eyes to see and ears to hear to discover it. And now before you, a choice is presented. You can continue living as if you were a spectator in the theater of life, or you can take control and assume your role as the writer, director, and protagonist of your own story. What comes next is not theory, but the practical application of this principle. You will learn how to shape your reality according to your intention, how to use your imagination as the most powerful tool, and how to transcend the limitations imposed by the external world. But before continuing, there is one question you must answer. Are you willing to accept that you have always had this power? The deepest truth you can discover is this: consciousness is the only reality. Everything you see, everything you experience, Everything you believe to be solid and tangible is nothing more than the manifestation of your internal state. The world that surrounds you is not independent of you. It is not a set of random events nor an immutable structure that operates outside your control. It is the exact reflection of what you hold in your mind as true. From the moment we are born, we are taught that reality is external and that we are simply its witnesses, subject to its changes and circumstances. We learn to respond to what we see and not to question where it comes from. But what few understand is that what we perceive as real is nothing more than the echo of our own consciousness, the external projection of our most intimate beliefs. The key to understanding this principle lies in recognizing that everything happens first in the mind before manifesting in external experience. Before something can exist in the physical world, it must have existed first as an idea, a vision, a thought sustained with conviction. Nothing arises from nothing. Everything is conceived in the imagination before taking form in matter. Think of the clothes you wear, the house you live in, the technology you use daily. Each of these objects was an idea before it materialized. Someone imagined them, visualized them in their mind, and then brought them into existence through action. But what is never told to us is that this same process applies not only to the creation of objects, but also to the creation of circumstances, relationships, and events in our lives. Consciousness is the origin of everything. There is no exception. Wealth, poverty, health, disease, success, and failure are not mere accidents of life, but reflections of internal states. If you wish to know the cause of any situation in your life, do not look outside. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself, what am I sustaining in my consciousness that has generated this? This principle has been understood by those who have managed to transform their lives. Those who have achieved success did not do so simply by luck or because they were born in favorable circumstances. They did so because they internalized a mental and emotional state that led them to those experiences. And in the same way, those who have lived in scarcity and difficulty have often unconsciously held beliefs that kept them in that state. If consciousness is the only reality, then the only thing you need to change to transform your life is your state of consciousness. You do not need to struggle against the world. You do not need to seek validation externally. You do not need to strive to change circumstances directly. All you must do is assume within yourself the consciousness of the state you wish to experience, and the world will have no choice but to reflect it. Here is where most people fail because they have been programmed to believe that changes must come from the outside. They believe that they must first receive money to feel prosperous, that they must first find love to feel loved, that they must first obtain success to feel successful. But the truth is the opposite. You must first feel prosperous so that prosperity manifests. You must first feel love to attract love. You must first feel successful so that success comes to you. Nothing in this world has an existence independent of your perception. There are no fixed events. There are no immutable conditions. There are only states of consciousness that are projected continuously onto the screen of the physical world. This is the reason why two people can live in the same place, have the same opportunities, and yet experience completely different lives. It is not the world that dictates their destiny, but the way they perceive and feel their internal reality. And here lies your greatest power. You can choose which state of consciousness to assume at every moment. You are not bound to the conditions you currently experience. No matter what you have lived until now, no matter what circumstances seem to surround you, if you decide to change your internal state, if you consciously choose to feel and assume a new state, the external reality will adjust to that change. The problem is that most people are not aware of this process and allow their state of consciousness to be dictated by what already exists in the physical world. They see scarcity and feel poor. They see rejection and feel unworthy. They see illness and feel fragile. Instead of consciously creating their reality, they simply react to what has already been manifested. But if you continue reacting to the world instead of shaping it from within, you will continue experiencing the same thing over and over again. The secret is to invert this process. Do not react to reality, create it. Do not ask yourself if the circumstances justify feeling prosperous, loved, or successful. Decide to feel that way now, regardless of what your physical senses tell you. Consciousness precedes manifestation always. This principle is so powerful that once understood, nothing can be the same again. Because when you understand that consciousness is the only reality, you comprehend that everything is in your hands. There are no limits. There are no impossibilities. There are no obstacles that cannot be transcended. There are only states of consciousness that you can assume and live. If you are willing to accept this truth and apply it, the world will no longer dominate you. You will be the one who molds it to your will, who transforms it in your image and likeness. Because reality is nothing more than the mirror of your interior. The question is, what do you choose to sustain in your consciousness from now on? The key to manifestation is not found in physical effort, nor in the struggle against external circumstances, but in the power of assumption. This is the truth that transforms the lives of those who are willing to accept it. Everything you assume as true in your interior will become your external reality. Since we are born, we are conditioned to believe that we must act first to then see the results. We are taught that success comes after effort, that love comes after the search, that wealth comes after hard work. But reality functions in reverse. First you assume a state, and then the world reflects it. It is not about working to obtain something, but about assuming internally that you already have it and allowing reality to adjust to that new perception. This principle is so simple that the rational mind tends to reject it. We have been taught that things are as they are, and that we must face reality as we perceive it. However, this is one of the greatest illusions of life. Reality is not fixed. It is molded by your beliefs and your internal state. What does it mean to assume? To assume means to accept something as true without the need for external proof. It is not about waiting to see changes to believe in them, but about living internally as if those changes had already occurred. If you assume with certainty that something is real, the physical world will reorganize to reflect it. This principle is in operation all the time, whether you use it consciously or unconsciously. Everything you live today is the result of past assumptions. If you have experienced scarcity, it is because at some level you assume that scarcity was part of your reality. If you have experienced rejection, it is because you assumed you were not worthy of acceptance. If you have experienced success, it is because at some level you assumed it as inevitable. Your life is the product of your deepest beliefs, not of what you desire, not of what you hope for, but of what you take for granted as true. The difference between desiring and assuming. The most common mistake of those who try to manifest something in their lives is that they continue desiring it instead of assuming it. Desire implies lack. When you desire something, you are affirming to yourself that you do not have it. And by doing so, you continue perpetuating that reality of absence. For example, if someone desires money and constantly repeats, "I want to be rich," what they are really reaffirming is that they are not. Their state of consciousness continues to be that of a person who lacks wealth, and since consciousness is the only reality, the external world will continue reflecting that lack. The key is to stop desiring and start assuming. Instead of saying, "I want to be rich," you must feel like someone who already is. You must behave internally as if wealth were already a fact in your life. It is not about lying to yourself, but about aligning your consciousness with the reality you wish to experience. How to apply assumption in your life. Define what you want to experience. Consciously choose the state in which you wish to live. It can be wealth, love, success, health, inner peace. But it is not enough to want it. You must assume it as a present truth in your life. Feel it as if it were already real. Imagination is the most powerful tool you possess. Use your mind to visualize yourself living that desired reality. Do not see it as a distant dream, but as something that has already happened. Sustain the sensation. Do not let it go. Do not allow external appearances to divert you. If you assume that you are prosperous but see a low balance in your bank account, do not let fear or doubt take over. Remain firm in your assumption because what you see now is only the reflection of your past consciousness. Avoid contradicting your new reality. Your words and thoughts must be aligned with your assumption. You cannot affirm that you are successful and then complain that things are not working. You cannot assume that you are loved and at the same time doubt whether someone accepts you. Relax and trust in the law. Do not try to force the manifestation, nor worry about how it will happen. The way in which reality will adjust to your assumption is not your task. Your only job is to assume the desired state with total certainty. Example of application of the power of assumption. Imagine that you wish to attract an incredible job opportunity. Instead of focusing on the desire, I want this job, assume that it is already yours. In your mind, feel like someone who has already been hired. Visualize how you wake up each day to go to that job, how you interact with your colleagues, how you receive your first salary. Allow yourself to experience that reality in your interior with all possible intensity. If you sustain it with firmness, you will soon notice changes in your environment. Perhaps you will receive an unexpected call, a recommendation from someone you did not expect, or you will simply feel the impulse to take an action that leads you to that reality. But everything will begin from your internal assumption. Why has this power not been used by the majority? The world has conditioned people to believe only in what they can see with their eyes. But conscious manifestation requires believing before seeing. That is why many fail. They cannot sustain an assumption without external evidence. They let themselves be carried away by fear, doubt, and impatience. And by doing so, they destroy the seed they had planted in their consciousness. But those who understand this principle and apply it without doubting see how their lives change radically. They become the masters of their destiny, the architects of their reality. Because once you assume something is true in your interior, the world has no other option but to confirm it. Conclusion. You are the creator of your reality. The power of assumption is the key to manifestation. It is not about fighting, waiting, or desiring. It is about accepting internally the reality you wish to live and sustaining it no matter what you see externally. If you manage to dominate this principle, you will discover that there are no limits to what you can experience. Your external world is only a reflection of what you assume in your interior. The question now is, what reality are you willing to assume today? The external world does not respond to what you superficially think, but to what you feel with certainty in your interior. The thought alone has no power if it is not accompanied by an emotion that roots it in consciousness. Here lies the key to all manifestation. The feeling is the secret. We can repeat affirmations all day. We can visualize our ideal life over and over. But if we do not feel as if it were already real, everything will be in vain. Because the universe does not respond to our words, but to the vibration of our consciousness. And that vibration is determined by what we feel is true. Why is feeling so powerful? Feeling is the signal you send to the world, the language with which you mold reality. It does not matter what you say, what you read, or even what you try to force yourself to believe. The only thing that matters is what you deeply feel is true. Every emotion you sustain in your interior generates a response in the external world. If you feel abundant, you will attract abundance. If you feel loved, you will attract love. But if you feel lacking or rejected, no matter how much you desire the contrary, you will continue manifesting more of the same. The difference between thinking and feeling. Many people try to manifest by simply repeating phrases or affirmations without truly feeling them. They say, I am prosperous, but deep down they feel fear about their economic situation. They say, I am loved, but inside they still feel lonely or unworthy. And since the universe does not respond to empty words but to the emotional state that accompanies them, it ends up manifesting more of what they truly feel, not what they say they want. That is why the real work is not in forcing positive thoughts, but in aligning the feeling with the reality you wish to live. If you can feel it as real, then it will be real. If you can immerse yourself in the emotion of your fulfilled desire, no matter what your physical eyes see, then it is already done. How to use feeling to manifest. Identify what you want to experience. It is not just about asking for things haphazardly. Ask yourself, what do I really want? How would it make me feel to have it? Generate the corresponding emotion. Do not think of your desire as something distant or unattainable. Feel it as if it were already here. If you desire abundance, feel secure and free. If you desire love, feel loved right now. Use imagination to deepen the feeling. Visualize scenes in which you are already living the desired reality. Do not focus on the details, but on how it makes you feel to be there. Stay in that state as long as possible. Do not let the external world dictate your internal state. If something seems to contradict your assumption, do not worry. The physical reality is only a reflection of what you have felt before. Remain firm in the sensation that your desire is already a fact. Example of manifestation through feeling. Suppose you wish to attract a loving relationship. Instead of focusing on the lack of love or the wait for someone to arrive in your life, change your internal state. Feel loved now. Visualize a scene in which you are already with the ideal person. Do not imagine superficial details without the feeling of love, security, and happiness. Feel what it is like to be accompanied, what it is like to know you are loved without doubts or fears. If you sustain that feeling, reality will have no choice but to reflect it. Perhaps you will meet someone unexpectedly, perhaps a past relationship will renew, or perhaps the universe will surprise you with an opportunity you never would have imagined. But everything begins with what you feel at this moment. The error of looking outside. Many people wait for something to change outside to then feel a certain way. They believe they must first receive money to feel prosperous, that they must first find a partner to feel loved, that they must first achieve success to feel triumphant. But this is a fatal mistake. The external world is only the effect, not the cause. The cause is in your internal state. You cannot expect the reflection in the mirror to change before changing your expression. You must first feel as if you already were what you desire to be, and then the world will confirm that truth. Because feeling is the secret of faith. Faith is not just intellectually believing in something. It is feeling with certainty that it is already real. It is not about waiting with doubts or anxiety, but about knowing with the same certainty with which you know the sun will rise tomorrow. If you truly believe something is yours, you relax. You do not seek it with desperation. You do not worry about how it will arrive. You simply rest in the certainty that it is already done. And when you enter that state of certainty, reality begins to move to adjust to that new truth. Conclusion: choose your feeling, choose your life. Every moment of your life, you are choosing an emotional state, consciously or unconsciously, and that state is what is shaping your reality. If you want to change your world, change how you feel in this instant. Do not wait to see results to feel a certain way. Feel it first, and the results will come. Because the only reality is your state of consciousness, and feeling is the language with which you speak to the universe. The question now is, what emotion do you choose to sustain today? At the base of all manifestation, of all transformation, of all conscious creation, there is a fundamental affirmation: I am. These two words are not merely a set of sounds, nor a trivial expression of language. They are the very essence of reality, the foundation upon which everything you experience in your life is built. Since time immemorial, sages have understood that the secret of creation lies in the identity you assume for yourself. You are not what the world says you are, nor what circumstances seem to show. You are what you affirm to be in your interior, and every time you say I am, you are declaring a truth that will be reflected in your external world. The true meaning of I am: when you say I am, you are not simply describing something about yourself. You are creating. You are establishing an identity that the universe will take as law. It is not an empty affirmation, nor a simple positive thought. It is an act of absolute power. If you say I am strong, the world will present circumstances that reinforce that identity. If you say I am prosperous, prosperity will find a way to manifest in your life. But if on the contrary you say I am poor, I am weak, I am unfortunate, then that will become your reality. The mistake many people make is using I am unconsciously, allowing their automatic thoughts to define their identity without questioning. They face difficulties and say I am a victim. They experience a loss and affirm I am unfortunate. They suffer a rejection and conclude I am unworthy of love. But you are not your past experiences, nor are you the labels that have been imposed on you. You are what you choose to declare with authority about yourself. I am in spiritual teachings. Ancient scriptures have left clues about this principle for centuries. In the Bible, when Moses asked God his name, the answer is simple and profound. I am that I am. Exodus 3:14. No specific name is given because the name of God is the same creative principle. I am. This is not a religious affirmation, but a revelation of the nature of consciousness. Every time you use I am, you are using the name of the creative power, the force that gives life to all things. What follows after I am becomes an order that the universe will execute. If you understand this, you comprehend that there are no limits to what you can be, have, or do. You are the creator of your own existence, and your most powerful tool is the identity you choose to assume. How to use I am to transform your reality. If you wish to change your life, you must begin by changing the way you use I am. You cannot continue affirming what you do not wish to experience. You must begin to declare the truth you wish to see manifested, even when your senses seem to show the contrary. Here are some practical steps to apply this principle. Choose your new identity. Ask yourself, who do I want to be? How do I want my life to look? The answer is not something you should seek outside, but something you must assume from within. Declare your new identity with certainty. Begin to affirm it without doubting, no matter what you see in the external world. The only thing that matters is what you sustain in your interior. Examples. I am abundant. I am loved and valued. I am perfect health. I am successful in everything I do. Feel it as an absolute truth. It is not enough to say it mechanically. You must feel it as if it were already real. The emotion is what gives life to the affirmation. Live according to that identity. Act and think like the person who already is what you affirm to be. If you declare, I am prosperous, but continue feeling insecure about money, then you have not fully assumed that identity. Do not allow contradictions. Be conscious of how you speak and think throughout the day. If you catch yourself saying, I am unfortunate, immediately change the declaration. Do not reinforce identities you do not wish to experience. Example of application of I am. Imagine someone who has struggled with insecurity and fear of rejection for years. They have unconsciously said, I am shy, I am invisible, I am someone no one notices. And as a result, they have manifested a life where those affirmations are constantly fulfilled. But one day they decide to change. They start saying with firmness, I am a confident person, I am valuable, I am a powerful presence wherever I am. At first, they may not fully believe it. Their mind will try to remind them of past experiences that contradict their new identity. But if they persist in this affirmation and feel its truth, they will soon begin to notice changes. They will behave with more confidence without effort. People will start to notice their presence. They will receive opportunities that previously seemed inaccessible. They will feel freer and in control of their life. All this did not happen by chance, but because they changed the internal cause and the external world adjusted its reflection. The danger of using I am unconsciously. Every time you say I am, you are decreeing something about your existence. Do it with awareness. Avoid affirmations like, I am unfortunate, I am a failure, I am someone who never has luck. Each of these phrases strengthens an unwanted reality. No matter how many times you have said it before, you can change your destiny in this very moment by simply choosing a new declaration of identity. Conclusion. Take control of your power. I am is the key to personal power. It is the identity you decide to assume, and it is the force that shapes your destiny. If you want to transform your life, do not seek answers outside. Do not wait for the world to change to give you permission to be who you desire to be. Declare it now, feel it now, assume it now. Because what you say after I am will define everything you will experience. The question now is, who do you decide to be today? Everything you see in this world, from cities to technology, from human relationships to economic opportunities, once existed first in someone's mind before becoming reality. Imagination is the principle of all creation. It is not a mere mental game nor a fleeting distraction. It is the tool with which you shape your destiny. What you imagine with faith and emotion becomes your life experience. There are no exceptions. The physical reality is nothing more than the external projection of what you sustain in your internal imagination. If you wish to change your world, you must first change the image you sustain in your mind. Imagination is more real than the physical world. Most people believe that imagination is something unreal, a fantasy without impact on real life. But this is one of the greatest illusions of the world. What you imagine is more real than what you see with your physical eyes, because what you imagine is the cause, and what you see is the effect. Neville Goddard taught that imagination is not simply a faculty of the mind, but the very creative consciousness in action. It is the power of God within you. Every time you imagine something with total conviction, you are planting the seed of a future manifestation. And if you maintain that image with faith, without allowing doubt to destroy it, you will soon see it reflected in your life.